This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Hi listeners, this is Glynis McCarthy from the Practice of Learning Teams podcast show. Learning Teams embraces and respects the need for functional diversity and the diversity of thought to be present and an integral part of organisational and worker learning. This approach acknowledges and makes visible the differences that exist between genders in the workforce and identify health and safety risks and implement, maintain and improve effective solutions. Today is an episode of our special podcast series on women's perspective, adoption and approach of the new view of safety and of learning teams, where I have conversations with women who represent organisational leadership, industry advocacy, safety practitioner, and regulatory authority. We will explore that individual's own journey, the role of gender in safety, and the potential of the new view of safety and of learning teams. Today, I'm joined by Ruby Thompson, an aspiring HSE professional based in Melbourne, Australia. Ruby works in the construction sector and has recently developed a series of wellbeing, self-awareness and personal responsibility awareness webinars. Ruby is passionate about psychological safety, performance improvement, and long-term positive work culture. Please join me and my special guest, Ruby, as we learn and improve together. Hi, Ruby. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in health and safety?
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. Sure. So my journey in health and safety started in 2009 when I decided to study it at university. Like a lot of Year 12 students, I was a little bit unsure of which direction I wanted to go in and seeking advice from my parents, family, friends, and career counsellors. I decided that safety was going to be the best pathway for me. It really was that mix of interacting with people, being out in the field, and also having a bit of a administration systems part to the career as well too. I had a lot of people in my life that had worked in high-risk industries, so I was already familiar with mining and construction, and I love the type of people, the kind of rough on the outside but absolute teddy bears on the inside, and I really wanted to work with more genuine, hardworking people and be there to support them in the industry. So that was a big motivator for me when choosing that career. Also with my degree, because safety, as we know, it can be a bit dry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I minored in psychology because I love the people side of safety, the culture, influencing people's decision and basically overall making it a more enjoyable experience and keeping people interested in safety. So I studied psychology as well, which was very interesting and has always been a passion of mine throughout my career, which is 10 years now, so which just really sneaks up, but that's what influenced my decision.
I think having a pairing with psychology in safety is a really good starting point. My pairing in safety is not through psychology, but through adult education. And so it's very much with a focus on making sure that the individual is at the center of. And I think psychology does something very similar. It gives you a great insight into kind of how people think about safety and about what motivates them and what aids them in terms of their practice, and also the things that can detract from practice. I'm sure coming into doing a degree in kind of safety, at the time it does seem like I'm surprised that that's something that was sort of talked about as a year 12 student and put on the cards. I know that with my own journey, that was not something that was sort of ever put out there, is that you could do something that was dedicated around safety. Do you think that there's an equal gender split in the health and safety sector?
I wouldn't say it's quite at equal. It is the type of role where you do see more female presence. It depends on the company or industry. Sometimes they have achieved a better split, but compared to other roles, say like a mechanical fitter, there is a much better split of females and males in the safety role. And I would like to see a continual growth in HSE women in leadership roles. I think that's really where I would like to see more growth in the industries, because I guess that opportunity, moving away from the middle-aged male in the management roles, trusting that females have that knowledge to lead, which has not been necessarily traditional in the high-risk industries, because it a lot of benefit, and I love seeing women continuing to progress and fit those roles. It was something at the start of my career where I was very self-conscious of, coming from a university background and not a trade background, which I think has been very idolised in the construction and mining, the high-risk industries. But I'm seeing a lot of women as well progress and trust their backgrounds and knowledge. And the best thing is that you can always ask questions.
So how do you get around that in practice? I also have experienced that, where people have said to me, well, what do you know? You've not come up through the tools. You don't have that kind of lived experience, and often have to kind of come at things in a slightly different way, in a much more collaborative way, I suspect, because I rely on somebody else's expertise in terms of being able to craft something. So tell me, how do you kind of navigate that space?
Absolutely. So important. I love how you put that. It is more of a collaborative effort when trying to find out more information, which is applicable to everything. It's before starting any high-risk activities. It's throughout an incident investigation. It's for reviewing swims. And I think just knowing that it takes time to build that knowledge as well. In the high-risk industries, there's so many activities and trades and specialists, and then they have all their individual tasks and breakdowns of things. So it does take time to build that knowledge, and you don't need to know every single detail to be able to assist people. Your safety knowledge can be applied to all activities, but the biggest thing for me is consulting with the workers and the supervision, and having the courage to continue to asking questions if it hasn't quite landed yet. And I will never pretend to know everything. I will, even as I've and I approach this at the start of my careers and continue to do the same thing. I'll sometimes have a joke with the trades and say, I don't know if you have this store, but you would know about it. I would say, just slow down, you're speaking fluent Bunnings.
I know that reference, yes.
And just kind of break it down. And then it goes both ways as well too, because there'll be things that I need to break down and translate to the trades. I often think during audits, I'm the translator, because there'll be these very serious and sometimes intimidating academic questions, and throughout procedures as well, and dealing with trades that maybe haven't finished high school and didn't choose a career in construction. They wanted to avoid all the essays and procedures, and I'll kind of translate it to them because they have such a valuable set of knowledge, and then translating it back then into the academic script for the audit report. So it definitely goes both ways, and I've seen where supervisors are very confident out in the field, but then might trip up or avoid writing incident reports or swims because they are intimidated by the language used in swims and procedures. So I really see myself as a coach to assist them build their confidence, and even with using safety systems, because if people don't feel confident, they'll avoid it. So it's really important to set people up for success. And I give people that respect. So I also expect that I would be treated the same if I'm unsure when asking questions. So that is my biggest tip to young people and women in the industry, is to continue asking questions. No one should make you feel silly. If someone does, go to somebody else.
Yeah, and to remember that that's on them, rather than that being on the person that has asked a silly question in the first place. No, I completely concur with you. I think one of the best things in health and safety is to be able to come alongside people who do the work, and to do that, if you do that in a genuine way. So if you acknowledge that you don't have that knowledge set that they do, but that you might bring some skills in other areas, and then that you go forward and you work together to kind of find the solution that's going to be workable. No, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that that's sometimes something that I see is done slightly better, I suspect, with my female colleagues than sometimes with my male colleagues. Sometimes I feel with my male colleagues, sometimes a little bit of ego might just get in there. And perhaps sometimes with my female colleagues, actually, they just take it as part of how you do business. You know, you need to be able to come alongside other people, and you need to be able to collaborate with them, and you need to be able to find workable solutions that often other people have the knowledge around. And it's for what I'm trying to do, at least in my role, is to facilitate that.
Definitely. I do find in those situations where the ego can get in the way, and it certainly can. Men are fantastic to work with. I love working with men. They're so practical and brilliant at what they do. And then sometimes the ego can just be a massive block. It's quite interesting to observe. So I do find as a female presence, I can really diffuse those situations to move forward and extract the information that we need to move forward. But the best thing as well that comes with the male ego is that men are generally very forgiving and get on with it and forget about it the next day. Everyone's mates again. So,
and some of the things I like the most in my job is some of the stories that get bandied about, or some of the sort of the tales that you know, just sometimes they just truly crack you up. That you don't get kind of in the corporate office, but you know, you're working alongside a bloke with a big piece of heavy equipment, and you know, just the way that he sees the world and the way that he expresses how he sees the world, sometimes, you know, can honestly, it can make you want to sit on the ground and kind of curl up in that fetal position because you are laughing so hard that you feel like your stomach is going to cramp.
Definitely.
Yeah, so there can be some good times, can't there? You know, so sometimes the challenges can actually, if you flip head, they can be something that really sort of inspire you to kind of, I'm going to get to the top of this hill no matter what, and no impediments are going to get in the way.
Absolutely.
From your opinion, what do you think are the key challenges for women, and younger women particularly, working in health and safety?
Definitely. And the thing that comes to mind for me is how intimidating the industry is for a young person, a young female, and women in general, but also young people. And this is one thing I really like to pay forward to cadets and graduates and apprentices in the industry, is to really be there as a person of support for them, because I'm so grateful for the people that were there supporting me, because it's just so intimidating. There's a lot going on. When I first started, I was very young. I was 19 when I started my first job, and I was 20 when I was out on site. So I finished my degree very young, being a Christmas Eve baby. So a lot younger than, I was a lot younger than my friends, and straight into the world of fly in, fly out and mining sites. And there's so much going on, and it was just a lot. It was really intimidating, and I had a lot of pressure on myself to know everything. And that's not the case. So just And the biggest thing I will say as well, to no matter what age or gender people are, is to trust your instincts as well. That's so important with safety, is you don't have to have all the knowledge to recognize risks or when something's not right, but often it's your gut feeling that will tell you when something's not right, or just to take an extra 5 minutes and not proceed, or ask someone a question about if that's right. So instincts are a massive one. So that gut feeling has served us for thousands and thousands of years, and it's usually bang on. So yeah, I would say surround yourself with good people. That's really important, especially working such long hours. I was working 14-hour days, spending time away from my family, but I've always been very lucky that I've always found really good people in the workplace that I can trust and go to, and they've really gotten me through. But yeah, just ask questions, back yourself, listen to what feels right as well. If someone's not making you feel great, maybe that's not the person to go to for questions. People shouldn't be making you doubt yourself. That's not very nice. That's a reflection of them, of whatever's going on for them. And also importantly, to make sure you are looking after yourself. That is so, so important, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, being conscious of what we're consuming, and that includes conversations, then it makes it a lot harder to filter out the negative and the noise, and it really starts to wear you down. And that's one thing I'm very passionate about doing in my role, is reminding people or putting them back on that path to looking after themselves, because people just sacrifice so much in these industries, so much of their time for whatever their reasons are. Usually it's, for their family, to have a better life, and slowly by slow, these little habits really put them out of touch of taking care of themselves. And it feels very easy to get bogged down by your externals that you have no control over. So really taking back control of what you can, and that's how you look after yourself and who you spend time with. That makes it easier, makes you more resilient to the challenging things in the industry, which there's plenty of. So that would be my biggest advice to young women, young people, people that are new to the industry, and people who have worked in the industry for a long time. Take care of yourself, even it's changing one small habit every single day, and spending time with good people who uplift you, and ask questions. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I know throughout my career, it's been really important for me to have good role models, and they've come in various forms. I've worked with really strong female leaders as managers, but equally so I've worked with, and I work with at the moment, really strong role models that happen to be men. I think having somebody that acts as a mentor, that somebody that acts as a sounding board for you, and sometimes pushes you out of your comfort zone, I think is also really important. What about for you? Have you had sort of pivotal role models along the way?
Absolutely, and very similar to you, very different roles, all different shapes and sizes. And I've just loved the part that each and every one of them has played in my life. One of them was a maintenance worker, and this piece of advice has stayed with me for a long time, because I would think of everything I need to do, because it's such a fast-paced environment. I guess he could, and this is very early on in my career, and he could see that I always felt very busy. And he said to me, have a to-do list, which should have 3 things, and then a to-be-done list. And very simple advice, but I've kept that with me throughout my career. And I just think, the messages that are meant to come to us do through anyone. So, there's been people like him that haven't necessarily been a mentor, but have just given me, nuggets of their wisdom from their life experience that I've taken with me throughout my career. But yeah, I've had some wonderful, wonderful mentors, and I just love meeting people, speaking to people from all walks of life. And yeah, you never know who you're going to meet. So I think it's important to be respectful to each people, every single person in their role, whether it's a cleaner, the CEO. I think it's important to treat people the same. That's how I was raised. And because of that, I've built a lot of great relationships throughout my 10 years.
And I agree with you. So often the very best nuggets come from the person that you least expect them to. And so you've got to be open for those.
Definitely.
One of the things that you commented on when we first started to have our conversation was, that there are a number of women emerging in the safety space. I think I've gone back to do some study here in New Zealand, and I know that I think actually it's something like 60% of the participants are in fact women. So I see that there's a big surge of women coming into the health and safety sector. But what I don't see so much of is at a very senior level. What are your thoughts on that, and how do we change that going forward?
I think it comes from open-minded men in leadership roles as well too, kind of slowly getting rid of that boys club mentality and what has been for years. Also, what I see is a big gap between, say, an advisor or superintendent role and manager roles. There's no kind of in-between or opportunities for, I guess, like that stepping stone before becoming a manager, and there's very few opportunities compared to advisor roles. So, but often what happens, especially in Melbourne construction, it's kind of the same managers in the tier 1 space, and they kind of, they might circle around to the different companies. But when those people leave the industry or retire, there's then a big gap there. So I think it's more opportunities and training and maybe sharing the role so that women and others can and younger people can build their skill set to step into those roles, rather than there being so few opportunities and such a gap between, the other roles. That's what I would say about that.
I think there does need to be a kind of a transformational change. I agree with you. It's kind of maybe getting people, perhaps it starts with female professionals in health and safety really understanding their own worth. So I think that's possibly a journey that more of us need to go on. And then I suspect by understanding our own worth, then those around us will start to see that. I also think there's enough shift at the moment in the entire sector, as we sort of lose our shackles perhaps from how we thought about health and safety 1 to kind of the newer view of safety. And that we're starting to see that there's a lot of value that's placed on our ability to be able to work alongside the workforce and really harness their knowledge and put them at the centre of those solutions. So that, I think that there's a different skill set that potentially is going to be called upon in the future. But it would be really good to see health and safety female professionals move very much from that bulk of kind of being there doing the work to really sitting at that kind of strategic level. I think that will bring a great deal of value, and not in any way to denigrate people that are currently doing those roles. But it would be good to see a little bit more kind of equality in the space, I suspect.
I would love to see that. And my advice to females would be to don't be afraid to get out on site and build that knowledge. I know it seems like such a mountain to learn, especially if you don't come from a trade background, but people in the field love to talk about what they do, and they love to share their knowledge. So yes, I think in every role, I know it's easy to feel uncomfortable in or a bit out of place, maybe in construction or mining sometimes, but I think everyone feels uncomfortable at some stage, no matter what job they do. So it's leaning into feeling uncomfortable, getting out there, speaking to people, being vulnerable. It does feel like you are vulnerable when you admit you might not know something, but people don't hear that. That's our own insecurities, and I think that weighs us down a little bit more as women compared to men in the industry. I'm going to butcher this saying, but it's like a lot of men get given or, might step into a more senior role before women because they go, oh yeah, I'm, about 50% there, but the confidence is 100%. They're like, yeah, I can do that. Whereas with women, and I've certainly recognized that in myself when going for a promotion, like, okay, well, I need to do this training first, and I need to have, this much more experience. I think we have maybe an obsession about being perfect, but really it should be progress over perfection, and give it a go, and back yourself, and trust that you will have the support and knowledge to get through whatever comes your way.
Look, I think there's such good telling words, and I think that should be the mantra that we should all have, whether we be, new in the profession, been in the profession a long time, whether we be male or female. That should be all of our mantra, is, that, we should trust that we've got a skill set and keep developing that skill set and working with other people to work so that we can create something that works in the embetterment for everybody. What's one thing that's really surprised you that you've sort of learnt in your journey so far?
One thing that has surprised me, I would just say that it can be such simple things that can shift culture and people's mindset. It can be as simple as people just taking care of themselves and just being more responsible for their choices and decisions, not just at work, but outside of work as well too. That I know it just, I'm trying to explain it, but it has like a domino effect basically. So I think what's important is to empower people to make their own decisions and have their own awareness, but also ensuring that we have a good consultation with the workers, ensuring that messages are received, not just assuming, but having good relationships with the workers and being a safe person for people to come to with any hazards or concerns. But it's not as difficult as what people think it is to create change and a safe workplace. It's getting the basics right, like ensuring there's a good balance and people's well-being is well taken care of, and encouraging people to look after themselves, but also being a person that people feel comfortable going to with concerns is very important. And that's one thing I'm conscious of as a safety professional is thinking long term and ensuring that people can come to me for no matter what, and always following through with little things. That's how you build people's trust. So if I say I'm going to do something, it's really important. A big value of mine is integrity, and is following through with that and getting back to that person. And if I can't action it by that day or whatever, I'll give an update to that person. So
look, I agree with you. When I think of, if I think about our profession, I think about health and safety in general. For me, there are three pillars. For me, there is empowerment. So making sure that people have the knowledge and the skills, the capabilities to be able to do the task and have an understanding of what does that task actually mean for them. But it's also that wider piece, like you say, it's about that well-being piece, about trust. I think that, we need to start this with a human-to-human interaction, make sure that we're doing right by the people that are doing the work, and people that are doing the work do right by the organisation, and accountability. And I think when those three pillars get out of kilter, actually, so does everything else. So I agree with you. You can make big change, but it needs to be based on something that's genuine. I think that often we kind of get caught up in slogans, and we get caught up in sort of fancy things that don't really amount to much. But if we strip it back and we actually think about how is work being done, and make sure that we provide, a safety net for the people who are doing the work, so they have the right resources, the right skills, the right knowledge, the right tools, the right equipment. Actually, I think that we are more able to have upfront, trust-based conversations.
I completely agree, and so well said. People like to come out with implementing things and new campaigns and some new shiny thing, when really I think it's about quality connection with people through consultation and just time with people is really where I've seen the biggest shift. And yeah, it just gets to be so simple. I'm still waiting for what I would love to see from more senior leaders is, rather than, so when they start fresh, they go, right, I need to implement this and impress people. What I would love to see more of leaders going, well, where can I actually take away some stuff and what's actually serving a purpose here? And when I'm on site, the first thing I'm thinking about is how can I give more time to people? And that a big piece for me is training people and setting them up for success, and not, in my mind, deciding that they've received it and that's enough. That's it, getting that feedback from them. Do you understand? And they might feel like yes in the moment, but making sure people feel comfortable to ask me questions so they feel confident carrying out their role. And yeah, it's so important to set people up for success.
Yeah, as you were saying that, that very much strikes a chord with me. At heart, I still would act as an adult educator. That's still kind of my primary sort of, I suppose, thing that lights a fire for me. And I always think in training that it's never about the deficit. It's not about what somebody doesn't know, but it's about taking what they know and extending it. And really, my role in that is to always extend it a little bit further than probably it needs to, so that they can critically appraise what it is that they are being taught. But not only that they can critically appraise what it is that they're doing. So it's kind of looking and acknowledging that this is a person with these great skills, and all you're trying to do is give an extension to them, kind of, rather than fill up an empty vessel, which is often the kind of the approach that we take, particularly with training. We kind of take the approach that the person doesn't have much to start with, so you just simply try and fill it all in, rather than acknowledging that they've got these great skills, and what you're trying to do is do an extension through dialogue. If I have one last question for you, my last question is for you is, I suppose, how important is it to get younger professionals interested in a career in health and safety? And kind of what would be some, I suppose, your parting comments on that? What could you kind of, I suppose, how would you sell this as a sector? How would you encourage other people to get into this particular role?
Definitely. It's so important, and it is such a rewarding career. Don't get me wrong, it is challenging, but I've stuck with it. I've done this for 10 years and I enjoy it so much. There is so much diversity and you're doing something different every single day. There's exposure to so many things. You will not get bored. There is no mundane. Be prepared to work hard, yes, but as long as you were taking good care of yourself and communicating your boundaries and having some boundaries in place is really important for longevity in this industry. You will survive and you will go far, and you get to work with so many wonderful people. I have worked with thousands of people now, and I just love the people I meet every single day. I love being just a good part of people's day. I think so many people have had negative experiences with people in safety, myself included. So I really love to change people's experience with safety professionals. And I think young people just bring that new, vibrant, they're just such a breath of fresh air to people that have been doing this for 30 years, and be persistent with working with them to change their mindset and helping them become more conscious of their work environment, because it's amazing how quickly people become complacent in high-risk industries. Absolutely amazing. So it's really bringing that presence back to people and being aware of their surroundings and what they're doing and how they're looking after themselves. But it is a fantastic career. I encourage more women to get back into it. You will add not get back into it, but to choose it as a career, but because you add so much value. You really, really do. And having that feminine presence in the industry just is so wonderful, and people really do benefit from it and need more of. So I highly, highly encourage it. I've been disappointed to see less opportunities for safety graduate programs. So I really, if there's any big companies listening to this, please start, introducing that as its own graduate program, and creating more opportunities for safety professionals, which I valued and benefited so much from mine. I got to do so many cool things. I got to work on blast crew in mining, so blowing it up the dirt, and I got to do some truck driving. Those graduate programs are just absolutely fantastic for getting those mixed skills and seeing things from different perspectives. And that's one thing I'd encourage at the start of your career, get up in the tower crane and chat to the driver, any experience with operating or, shadowing a trade, all that stuff is so valuable. And a lot of people will want to share their knowledge in the industry as well too. But yes, you won't be bored, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I think our sector, you get for the best work stories. Mm-hmm. I know often when, I'm having coffee with a friend or having dinner out with people, sometimes I'll rattle off a story or an experience that I've had at work, and people just think, oh, wow, that's so different. I think it's really neat to, even though I don't know how to drive a digger, to go and talk to a digger driver about what is he thinking when he's going through the motions. For me personally, this has been a really rewarding career, and I do hope that more people, come into the career, young, old, female, male. It is a rewarding career.
Very.
Well, I thank you very much for your time today. It's been a really enlightening conversation that we've had. I thank you very much for your generosity of spirit and, for spending the time having this discussion with me. So I wish you very well in the future.
Oh, thank you. It's been so wonderful speaking with you this morning as well. Thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, listeners, for being part of this podcast. We'd love to hear your learnings from today or other topics you would like us to support you on. Go to www.podcastlearnings.com and be part of the community practice of learning teams at www.learningteamscommunity.com.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.